Now, if you're struggling with self sabotage and you don't know where to start, here, right here on this podcast, we're building the community. I want to remind you, breaking self sabotage patterns takes time. You've been operating like this for years, every decade, like hours. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate the small wins. We're building a community of people committed to breaking these cycles. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Tear to Triumph. My name is Alfonso Pelt. I'm your host. And joining me today is Storm, my co host. Hey, Storm.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good. You ready for today's episode?
Oh yes, I'm just full of it. I'm ready. Yes.
Oh, we got a loaded one for you guys today. Um, how can I put this? Today, we're going to be delving into something pretty personal. And it's personal because it affects every survivor out here. Um, what do you do when you're a survivor and you know that there's trauma in your past, but you don't want to confront it? In fact, you deny it. You don't want to admit that you have had trauma and the fact that it may be affecting you today. This is what we're talking about: real life, real actionable things that you can talk about and take with you. These are actual circumstances. Each one of us as survivors have gone through this where we didn't want to acknowledge that we were hurt. We tried to put it past us. We tried to block it out of our minds. We tried to focus on other things, throw ourselves into stuff, even if it wasn't something that was conducive or we wanted to do. We would throw ourselves into these things and try to occupy ourselves by focusing on this instead of dealing with the trauma that's affecting us. So today's episode is titled Why Survivors Deny Their Trauma. So we're about to get into something real, real deep. Again, welcome. Excuse me. We're live on Terror to Triumph right now on Facebook and YouTube. So that means you can directly communicate with us as we do our podcast. It's not just going to be a Tuesday thing, live Q&A, even though the Tuesday is directed just for the Q&A. I'm still going to give you information on Tuesdays. But today, we're opening it up for conversation so we can keep things going and keep conversation going between you, Storm, me. We want the community to start getting active on this. So today we're doing a deep dive series on denial. We're starting with the foundation. Why do survivors deny their trauma in the first place? It's not laziness, it's not stubbornness, it's survival. And understanding why changes everything. So you have to get that into your head. Storm, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, let's get it.
Okay. Okay.
Here are several reasons why survivors deny their trauma. The first one is survival mode. Okay. When you're in survival mode, you don't have time to process. You just survive. You're focused on just continuing living. Okay. You push through. A survivor might say, I don't have time to deal with this, or I just need to move forward. They're not lying. They genuinely feel like they can't afford to stop and process. That's part of the survival, right? So, Storm, what's the reason too?
The reason too is it's like their shame. Shame is powerful. It tells you if people know what happened, they judge you, they think that you're broken, they reject you. So survivors deny, they minimize, they hide because admitting trauma feels like admitting shame, and they're ashamed. And I have been, guilty of this, at the beginning.
Yeah, me too. Me too. It's a horrible feeling that when you feel like you've been put inside this casket, you can't ask anybody for help. So, yeah, it's real,
You
folks.
feel
For
like
those,
you feel like it's your fault, like we have talked
Mhm.
about in the past. You feel like, did I really lead that person on? Did I make that person think this? I'm hollering I'm a victim, but in my mind I'm a victim, but I'm shamed because did I really, cause this to happen? So you keep quiet because you think that you led that person to do the things that they did to you.
True that. True that. So we are leading into the next reason: fear of losing control. Okay, a survivor admits the trauma because they have to feel it. If a survivor admits the trauma, first of all, they have to feel it. Then they have to process it. They have to be vulnerable. And vulnerability feels like they're losing control. So we deny. We say, we're fine. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm in control. I got this. Reason number four, Storm.
Some survivors deny their trauma to protect their people that they love. They think if I admit this, I will hurt my family. It will be a burden to them.
Mhm.
So they carry it along. They say, I'm okay to spare others pain.
Yeah. Especially when you're dealing with family members. And the family member is the one who caused hurt to the other family member, immediate family member. So now you're trying to hide all that from everybody else because you don't want anybody else to feel any pain, trying to protect other people. Reason number five is minimization. Okay. A survivor might say, it wasn't that bad, or shoot, other people had it worse than me. Or maybe they even might say, I should be over this by now. They're comparing their trauma to other people's trauma. They're deciding their trauma doesn't count, so they deny it. And I don't know, but me personally, with my issue, it was more or less I couldn't understand why it happened. The understanding of why. And for me, I couldn't say it wasn't bad. I didn't try to diminish it or anything else, but I was terrified. I didn't want to admit it because I felt like it was going to be targeted at me. Whatever I tried to talk about, it was going to be said that it's your fault. You the one did that. Blah 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 blah. It's you, 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 you. So I didn't say anything to anybody. But again, that was me. So, Storm, let's head on over into reason 6.
If you're a survivor, grow up in a family that didn't talk about emotions or trauma. They learned to deny, they learned to push through. They learned that admitting pain is weakness. So when they experienced their own trauma, they denied it.
Mm, okay. Uh, Saying that you're broken, all right, makes you feel like you're substandard. So if your family was always seeming like they're so strong and strong willed and all that stuff, you don't want to be the weak link, you know, so you don't say something. You don't say anything because you want to be strong too. You want to emulate the people around you, but yeah, you don't want to talk about it at that point. Um, Not in that type of environment, not to the people who you deem to be the strongest people in your family because that's what you want to be. And you want to be anything but weak, the limp biscuit or whatever you want to call it. So, um, going into reason number 7, the fear of change is admitting trauma means you have to change. If you say, "Yeah, I know this happened to me," that means something has changed you deeply, and you're forced to reckon with that at this point because up until then you've been trying to avoid it, but actually saying there is something there forces you to look it dead in the eye and say, I see you. Now what we gonna do about it? So you have to get help at that point. You have to do the work. But change can be scary, right? So it's easier to say, I'm fine. I don't need to change anything. I'm good. You know, that's more denial. It's pushing you further away from true healing. So now you're stuck. So we can talk about these 7 reasons and how they resonate with each of us. Um, we could talk about how denial showed up, or have we experienced any of these, and when did we realize that we were denying, or actually what helped us break through. So, um, actually, we can even talk about, is this something that we see in somebody right now? Somebody around us. Do you know somebody that's doing these things? Do you see yourself doing these things? This is what we're here to do right now. We're here to talk about it. So let's get into it. Me personally, uh survival mode. Yep, that was me. I was in my household. Um my dad wasn't really a present body in the house. My mom, she was everything. She was the mother, father, the caretaker, the punisher, the financer, the everything. She was everything. The chef, the doctor when we got hurt, the law and order, janitor, head janitor. She was everything in the house. But unfortunately, my mother was bipolar, and I don't know if that was a something that was developed later on in her life or she always had it. But to the earliest of my knowledge, um, it was very severe. I mean, you couldn't tell when she would flip that switch. So, being that she was my uh she was the person that caused my hurt, that I felt like I had to do what I had to do to get past it because I got to stay there. I can't leave. I'm trapped, really. I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like I was adopted half the time. Well, more than half the time, but um, the abuse was real. It was the physical abuse was just about every day. If it wasn't every other day, it was every day. And the mental abuse came from seeing my siblings be physically abused or verbally abused. Or maybe it was me that was being abused. And I mean, because we all got all of that, you know, it was not a healthy household. And we were highly dysfunctional as a family. Um, and how we came up actually was the result of that. So folding in and trying to protect myself in an abusive situation outside of the sexual abuse, but the mental, physical, and verbal still continue, even though the sexual trauma had already happened, still got all that other stuff before the sexual trauma happened and afterwards. So I just went into shutdown mode. I need to stay to myself, stay away from everybody because to get away to get away from punishment, sometimes my sister would say I did something that they did. So I get the whooping and they wouldn't get it. I never did that to them, but it fell on me sometimes like that. So uh yeah, survival mode. I went into survival mode. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I just wanted to get through it. And that isolated myself. I isolated myself and I didn't have nobody to talk to. Definitely couldn't talk to anybody in my house. Uh so survival mode is the one I resonate with the most, even though some of the other ones I do too. But survival mode is definitely at the top of the list for me. Storm, which one uh, caught your attention or you felt like was the most reason that you felt that you had to deny having trauma?
I I like you went into survival mode. I shut down. I isolated. I feel even shame and fear for my people because my fear was not that they was gonna be hurt. My fear was that it was gonna be publicity. It was,
Mm.
every news station was gonna know about it. It was gonna get out of turns because they was gonna go want to find this person and probably unalive this person. So that was my biggest fear that I wasn't gonna get help. You know, it was gonna be to the point it was scary. And all I could think about if I know he threatened me, he said, "Don't tell nobody." But if I do tell somebody, is I'm gonna be all on the news. Have to tell my story. I was scared because I wasn't ready to face it, and I started hiding. Like you said, I began to be every day I found out how to numb myself, from, what was going on because of the circumstances that I've been through. This person didn't just disappear, people. He stayed around and hunted me for 2 years. So that was a trauma within itself, and you still trying to suppress everything, not letting nobody know nothing because something is right there dead in your face every day, looking at your every move, looking at you go to class. Um, like just period. It's like the movie, how people follow you and they lurking. This was real in my life. Somebody was really following me and lurking and saying, I'm here. You can't do no wrong. If you tell on me, you already know what's up. And you been threatened. So survival mode, I did survival mode for 10 years. Fear, 10 years. Shame, 10 years. I did it for a whole 10 years. Yes.
See, the mm, that's deep. When I try to think about my situation, the longevity of it, it's like from it had to be about 6, 7, all the way up until I was like 19, 20. Then I was in that abusive house or with the abusive household. So, uh, as traumatic as the early abuse was, I mean, the physical abuse ended up not being as severe. I think the last physical abuse happened while I was going through high school, but it it still remained the verbal, mental, and the sexual abuse had it was only the one time thing, but um because it was all those years of all that other abuse, it forced me into withdrawal, a really strong withdrawal. Like I disassociated with family, period. Like I had cousins I was cool with, before the trauma happened. But now when I see them, I hate this. But now when I see my cousins, because it was around the time when I got abused sexually, that it brings back those memories of that trauma. And I hate that because I love my cousins and I wish I could hang with them, but that crap keeps coming back up when I see their faces. And it shouldn't be like that. But it's also the shame of it, right? You know, didn't want your family to really know about this stuff that was happening to you, whether or not they would actually even believe that it happened in the first place. But uh, I denied it. I denied it for decades. Like I always say, and I'm 54 years old, and I just started getting therapy last year. You know, it took a very, very hard lesson in my second marriage for me to wake up and say something is wrong with me. Something is wrong with me because why I don't even know why I do the things I do sometimes. I said I need for this stuff to stop. But before all that, it was still business as usual. Ain't nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. I just go through life. I can work. I could do this. I could do that. but relationships, will fall apart. I would push people away, or I would become distant or disassociated with my partner because trauma, you know, was still messing with me because I refused to face it. And y'all don't realize how serious trauma can be. Trauma can alter your life to have you doing stuff you ain't got no business doing, that you didn't even want to go in that direction, but you end up doing this stuff. Trauma had you doing some crazy. I almost said some, but trauma have you doing some crazy stuff, trying to
Yes.
avoid addressing it. You know, but I want to give Storm one more go at it. Um, what was your breaking point for you to realize, like, what is it that caused you to say, I need help. Something's wrong. I need to change. What was that point for you?
Well, I never shared it on this platform, I believe, but I shared it on my other platform. And my breaking point was I had been going through trauma all 10 of those years before I got help. But the breaking point came to the point when someone was trying to unalive me one night. And I was
Mm,
so numb that it didn't phase me. It didn't phase me that they pulled the gun on me. It didn't phase me that they asked me for, at that time we wore pagers, that they asked me for the pager and took everything that I had. I got on the bus long as I could get on the bus, like, dude, let me be on to get on a bus, with the little change that I can. And when you got a barrel against your head, I guess it can be life changing because it's not the first time that that happened. But I was numb, so when I went in the house, my parent was like, my mother, she said, "I've been paging you. I've been paging you. You haven't answered your pager. What's wrong with you?" And I was like, "Oh, they took the pager. I was held at, point and they took the pager," and she started, yelling out through the house, for my uncle to, to come. And they sit down at the table and say, "Let's talk about it." And I'm like, to me, I'm numb. I just want to get over it. Like you say, I'm in survival mode. I want to just erase it, because telling her at the time, I didn't know that because I was numb. I was just very numb, like it wasn't nothing. I was like, "Oh, it's wrong," at gunpoint. It's nothing. And she was like, Adam, to find out what happened. And she was like, "Well, were you touched? Were you this?" And that's when I broke, everybody. I broke. I broke down for the first time in 10 years. I didn't know what a tear was. I didn't know what it was to cry. I didn't know was I blocked hurt. I blocked a lot of pain.
mm,
And I broke. I broke like a child because I was like, that word, that word that had never been discussed in 10 years, that word came up, it surfaced. That was my trigger, and I broke into the point that she's like, "I'm gonna get you help." And I was like, "Help? There's help, what's that? I didn't know that
mm.
you could actually get help for what you was going through. I didn't have no idea about a therapist. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. Because she said psychologist, not therapy at that time. And I'm gonna get you some help. And I'm like, I'm not crazy. I just want to forget about it. She said, "You can't. You got to get some help. That's why your relationships are not lasting. That's why they crashing." Now it all makes sense. She seen stuff that I wasn't looking at. I didn't know she was even bothered about the
Paying
relationships
attention
being,
to it.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't know that she was looking that those relationships was crashing like one after another. And I was sabotaging some of the relationships, not all of them. And I was like, help.
Mm,
I got the call for help. So I called the number, everybody, but I gave that therapist hell, you know, and I put her through something, but she also put me through something because she wouldn't give up on me. Like you say, when you find the right therapist, they're gonna hold on to you, they're gonna cling on to you with unchanged hands, and they're gonna make sure you get help. And she stayed with me for almost 6 months to a year. She made sure that I was gonna come out of this battle, you know, come out of this closet, because I was in the closet, I was isolating, I was fighting, you know, I was fighting everybody, you know, I was fighting people. So it hurts you, like you say, you do stuff that you don't want to do to hide your trauma. And I didn't know that I was fighting people because of the trauma I was going through. I didn't know that that's the real reason why I was fighting, you know, but you learn. And that's what it's all about. And that's what we on this platform, to let you know that it's a such thing as help. You can get help. And this is what it looks like when you get help, because you can smile for a change. It was a time that the sunshine didn't mean nothing to me. I'd rather for it to be rainy and gloomy and cloudy, because that was my comfort, you know? That's when I felt most comforting. The sunshine, I feared the sun because it happened in the bright of the day. It happened with the sun out. I walked home in the sun with my clothes ripped, you know, and even though my attacker fixed my clothes back like ain't nothing happened, but I knew I couldn't use the shirt no more, and it was sad. But we have to understand that therapist is here to help you in survival. When you survive together and everybody come in a platform and they say what's wrong, voice your opinions. Come on here and tell us so that we can get you the help that you need. We can point you in the right direction, because this is what it looks like when you get the help you need. You can walk. I'm not going to say that you're not going to have trigger moments. I'm not going to say that you're going to forget. They still there, but now you can handle it because you have been taught how to handle what you're going through.
True.
And back to you, Alfonso.
Well, we're going to close out the show now. We want to let you know that Terror to Triumph is supported by Pelts Emporium. That's www.peltsemporium. There have a lot of merchandise over there. We have t-shirts, hoodies, uh, leggings. We got just a whole bunch of stuff. Shoes, hats. Just go over there and check it out. And whatever you purchase outside of Crystal's Corner, those proceeds go to help fund Terror to Triumph. So head on over to www.peltsemporium, peltsemporium.com, and shop and show your support. And you can get shirts like what I got on today. It's got the Terror to Triumph logo, or what Storm is wearing, the hoodie. Um, that's got the Terror to Triumph on the sleeves and on the chest and on the back. And I also got a design on the back of the shirt. And you can show people that you supported this cause to help survivors. Survivors come out and reclaim their lives, the lives that God blessed us with, not the lives that somebody tried to take from us. So watch us live on Terror to Triumph on Facebook and YouTube. We are all beautiful. That's the logo for Pelts Emporium. We are all beautiful. So next Saturday, we'll be digging into segment 2, signs of denial. How do you recognize when someone or you is in denial? We thank you for being here. We thank you for your honesty. Thank you, Storm, for opening up today. I'm Alfonso Pelton. This has been my co-host, Storm. We will see you Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. for our live Q&A um, and information. So if you come there, ask your questions. If you see this and you want to bring somebody that might need it, that's fine. But this show is for everyone, because everyone,
Yes.
survivor or not, might need to pass on the information to somebody who does need it. So, as you can see down at the bottom of the screen, there's a ticker tape. There's been numbers that we give out, national helplines. Uh, Crisis and Suicide National Helpline is 988. Um, is those numbers are down there for you to record and save and give out to people who are in need. Because you might not be in need today. Your friends might not be in need today, but they might be in need one day. And those numbers will help you and your friends, in turbulent situations. So I want to remind everybody to keep moving forward. Okay. It is not a weakness to say that you need help. There's nothing wrong with you. Okay. Please, if you've been assaulted, if you've been harmed or you hurt mentally, physically, sexually, verbally, I urge you to go see a trauma informed therapist. They can really help. You can look at some of our other episodes that explain how to research and talk to a therapist to find the right one for you. So I would advise you to go back into some of the earlier episodes. But that is enough for us today. We thank you for joining us. I'm Alfonso Pell. This is my co-host Storm again. We will see you next time and have a blessed weekend. Bye. Hmm. We got to buy some clothes because we need a new computer for the show. I keep clicking the button. It
Um,
is taking forever to end the show.